Welcome to the Visser Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Richard Visser. I'm a former Minister of Health and Sports with a PhD in medical sciences. I'm a published researcher, and a long time ago, I started my career as a doctor of chiropractic. Together, I want to explore wellness. I want to explore longevity to get you to the best health you've ever known. So join me on this podcast. Welcome to episode number 33. This is the Blue Zone episode. And it's actually a Blue Home episode. Yes. So I have to give you a little bit of a background story. In 2005, I started the idea of changing my island and changing it to a healthier island. We saw that there was a rampant obesity under the children and grown-ups. Chronic disease was at levels that matched the United States, heading towards Mexico. Without the people knowing, this crisis was brewing. So I set out to start thinking, researching about how to do this. And that's where I came up on the Blue Zones. But not only that, I had to really research the region to find out what already has been done, what already has been tried, what has worked, what hasn't worked. And so with that, I started creating the national plan, which we finished in 2008, I believe, 7, 8. But it's basically the plan, a national plan, 2009 to 2018. 9 years. There's a reason. 9 is my number. Whether it's from my martial arts training or from my feng shui training or just my experience, 9 is my number. So I know that. So anyway, I created with some people that were very important to me, the national plan. And the national plan was approved in Europe. It was signed off by the top public health agencies and ended up in 2009 being approved by the government and parliament of Aruba and implemented. To implement this plan, this is a big plan, it's all encompassing, I had to create a new agency, which was IBISA. It was an agency for healthy living and movement, which basically brought together education, sports, movement, public health, medicine, everyone together. And these are characters that are not used to working together, but they had to work together with one mission: carry out the 2009-2018 Aruba plan. And it also had infrastructure in there. We had everything. So what ended up happening is we created a bus that would go to people. We created a whole new food pyramid. We created the longest linear park in the Caribbean, which extends to all the barrios everywhere. So people have access to exercise and walk right from their house. Because in the past, when we did a zero measurement, a base measurement, one of the shocking things that I remember very clearly was I was at the Institute of Educators. And so I said, okay, if we're going to change the children, we have to look at how we're educating the educators. And I started interviews with a research team. And one of the questions that we asked was, okay, what is it about exercise that you don't like or you don't do? Why don't you do it? Why don't you? Well, first thing came up, I don't have a gym, there's no money, that's the usual stuff. And I said, okay, walk. And this is where we found out where we had to start. When I said walk, I had a couple of hands raised up. And the comments from teachers to be were the following. And this is who's teaching our kids, right? If I walk, my neighbor thinks either my car is broken or people that don't know me think I don't have a car. So I must be poor or something. Wow. That was a reality check. And you need those. You need to figure out where you're starting so that your awareness program, which has to start way before your prevention program, has traction. That you're meeting the people where they begin. So this was the beginning for us. And this is one example, but it encompassed a lot of things. And so in that, we started implementing everything. Healthy schools. We had the private sector involved. We had infrastructure involved. We had everything. Buildings would get a health grade. Food labeling. Hotels had food labeling, believe it or not. All this started implementing, and we started an awareness campaign. We started an awareness campaign with a health bus, going around the island, going to people that couldn't get out of their homes, elderly, visiting them, talking to them, making them aware, having them teach their kids and their grandkids how to become healthier. So it's countless. I wrote a book about it. It's called the Aruba Project, and it's very encompassing. In the end, we had the World Health Organization and PAHO join us. We had signatures of 21 different countries that joined us in this fight. We took the call to action for obesity to the WHO, and it got integrated in their Millennium Goals. So a long road, a very satisfying road, and a complete change in this island, which served as an example for the region. In the sense of people are moving, people are healthier, kids, everyone. There is, and really before we had the infrastructure in place, we implemented the ciclovías, which we took over from Colombia, Latin America, where they would close down the major arteries of roads in the weekend, in Sundays, and just have the people take over with their kids, the grandparents, with the grandkids and the parents, and sports activities, walking, whatever you want, music, art, everything in the street that's usually full of cars, because there's no sidewalks, there's no areas where we can do this normally. Everything is built, it's not really planned well, there's no huge sidewalk. You can't, the kids with their little tricycles and all their toys, they can't, all they have is their home. So again, we need to really change the mindset, bring the awareness in, and cause friction to actually activate this, to make it something. And in Colombia, they said, 25 years to make it something that is set in stone in that country. And so we set out to do that, and we figured out it would be difficult in the beginning. And it was. We started with mountain biking and cycling all over the island, using the paths, creating new paths, doing night cycling because the island's very hot. So you have to kind of look at the environment and say, how do we play with this environment? How do we make it playful? How do we make it fun, involving the kids, the parents? Phenomenal. The island has never sold that many bicycles ever, and it keeps selling. It's a bicycling island now, which it never was. It's a walking island. People are exercising. So it's a huge change, massive change in attitude, in awareness, in action, in what we do, creating healthy schools and doing, steps for every school to be able to join and take these steps over. And you have to have an agencies that monitors, promotes, and, nudges basically all these projects together for an extended period of time, and that's where we had 9 years. So where do we see this? Where do we get this from? Well, we also had to have a point where everyone could get together and get behind, and that was childhood obesity. So not only did we have to, do that zero meeting, but I also did my research on childhood obesity in Aruba, in Bonaire, in the region, so that we could see the differences from Ecuador to Bonaire to Aruba and included some institutes like the VU from the Netherlands, joined me in the Bonaire research. I had Cuban doctors with me in the Aruba research project, which was a populational study on the children, on their health, everything, their hormone levels. I mean, we did everything. So really to give us a picture of, okay, where do we stand with this? And it was horrible. As you may imagine, the numbers were terrible. And so we had to start with educating the mom, to what is the right weight when thinking of having children. They need to be in the right weight because that affects the child. Birthing process, breastfeeding, how long, exclusively. First meals, what should they be? Eliminating giving the parents a carry-away package in the hospital that includes powdered milk for the child, making it too convenient. We had to talk to the private sector and have, coolers so that women could cool their milk and keep their milk cold and actually have areas where they can pump their milk and keep their milk at work so they can bring it home for their child, etc., etc. Everything was thought of, and this is what we do. So I'm not going to go through all the phases, but just to give you an idea, it's a huge body of work. So when we look at this, the whole idea in the end is to create longevity, to create quality of health, and so, being healthier and living longer with quality. So when we look at the regions, or I looked at the regions the blue zones, these are called blue zones. And they're specifically because one of the researchers started, doing their blue, they did, I think, blue inked on a map to show, and then that ran into blue zones. So we have the Barbahia region of Sardinia is one of the blue zones. And blue zones means a high amount of people are reaching 100 or going over 100 living. And these are sometimes remote areas and sometimes not. And it's not dependent on how good their healthcare system is, or hospitals, or if they're rich countries or not. No, a lot of them are poor countries, and they don't have the best hospitals, and they don't have, medical care super nearby or anything like that. And they don't have elderly homes. Elderly homes actually drops that longevity rate. So we're going to go over this quick, and then we're going to go and the reason I want to talk to this, because my body of research and the years I've done this has really focused on this. So there's a lot of information here, and I'm trying to really see, okay, what can we use at home? How do we do this at home? How do we create a blue home and a blue tribe for the people around me? Okay? So that's what we're going to do. That's the whole idea here. But I got to give you the background first. So we're looking at Sardinia, and the funny thing in Sardinia, and you got to remember this, so I'll give you caveats while I talk about these areas, was that the people that lived the longest were the people that lived on the steepest roads. Every day they walked. No one drove. Everyone did home chores, home work. They did the work the land, and they went to church every day. And when they went to church, it was an uphill walk for the old people, elderly, walking uphill. I mean, these hills are steep. So this tells us something about strength. It tells us something about VO2 which we'll come back to exercise, okay? Icaria, Greece, all right? This is, it's, the mortality is the lowest rate. They have the lowest rate of dementia of anywhere. So when we look at this, we say, okay, what's the difference? Well, they have the Mediterranean diet, they drink wine, they dance together, there's a lot of, activities that promote neuroplasticity. So we're going to look at this, and so this helps with cognitive decline. All right, so we're looking at, and that's the second one. All right, third one, Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica. The highest concentration of male centenarians. So here the males, because usually what we're seeing is females live longer than males. And this is, worldwide, if you look at the maps. Females tend to live longer than males. But here, the males are living long and they're working and they're focused. They have focus. They have a word for this. You know, it's in Japan it's called ikigai, and we'll talk about it. And here it's called, you know, reason for living in Spanish. And so this is important for them. And so really when you see someone that's in their 80s, in their 90s, and they're working like their life depended on it. They didn't need to work, but they're working like, I mean, you know, on horseback, raising cattle, whatever, working the land. These guys are working tough, hard, doing hard work every single day. Makes it different, gives us another clue. So then we have Loma Linda, California, Seventh-day Adventist. These guys exercise. They're a close grip community. They are like a tribe almost. They live 10 years longer on average than their North American counterparts, and they're living in the same country. Okay? But they have a high spirituality, a high community. Their volunteer work is through the roof, which gives them meaning, and they exercise. So you'll see these guys play pickleball, they're in the pool doing weighted exercises, they're everything, their movement every single day. And then finally, we have Okinawa, Japan. The females over 70 are the longest lived population in the world. These, you know, Okinawa is amazing. And so what do we see in Okinawa? In Okinawa, we see something that is, you know, amazing with Asian cultures, and that is they almost have no furniture. They sit down, and we're going to do this, okay? They sit on their ankles, okay? So they squat down. And they could do this the whole day, forever. I mean, and so the flexibility in their joints is amazing. The ability to get up from the ground at their standing position stays no matter how old they are. And we know that in the West, one of the big problems is when we fall, we're older and we fall, we can't get up. This is the biggest problem we have, you know? We even have this electronic device for it where we can press and go, I have fallen and I can't get up. You know those commercials? Well, these people don't have that at all. They sit down all the time. They have very low incidence of arthritic issues in their knees, their joints. They are flexible. They're able to sit this way. So we're going to learn from these cultures. We're going to learn from these zones. And so these are the blue zones, the five blue zones. And we have so much to learn from them. But at the same time, I'm going to incorporate what we know now from the science. So we're updating. We're always updating. We're always looking at, okay, what do we know in the past? How does that correlate with the science? And how can we do it better? So when I'm talking now, when we're going to be looking at this, we're going to incorporate stuff from the blue zones, but we're also going to incorporate all the stuff that we've talked about in all the episodes, starting from episode 1, 2, and going up on how to increase our well-being and how to increase our longevity, lifespan and health span. How do we do it? And there's ways. We have so much research now. We've got so much stuff that we can do right here, right now. Okay? So one of the requests I also had to show us someone that doesn't have a gym, and this falls into this category because these guys don't have gyms, okay? How do I do these exercises if I'm at home? If I'm a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, stay-at-home fill in the blank, how do I do this? Well, you have an amazing, important task. You have an opportunity, all right? We know that if we change the environment around the population, around the person, we change that person, okay? This is what we did in Aruba. This is what we did in 21 other countries that joined us in the Americas. We changed the environment, we changed the outcome, health outcome specifically, okay? So you have an opportunity in the home, you have control to, one, what you buy for food, what you do as activity, so do it with purpose. Have the purpose. Think about your purpose. The grandkids, the kids, if you're at home, the grandparents, okay? We need to also, one thing we learned about the communities in these blue zones is that there's family first. So there's generations that come either close or live together. This creates an amazing community where we support each other. And when we support each other, we don't need hospitals. We don't need elderly care centers. Or much less. And we're able to give the quality that we all aspire to. And we teach our kids a very valuable lesson too. So the generations need to come together. Our elderly have so much wisdom. We need to have more respect for them. And they are able to teach our children, their grandkids, or their great-grandkids, valuable life lessons that may not come over from us as parents as well. So think about that. Okay, so if we go through my chart of 9, and you're going to see it up here, we're going to start with movement, moving naturally. Okay, the world's longest lived people don't pump iron, run marathons, or join gyms. Okay, so this is also why I'm doing the home thing. Instead, they live in environments that constantly nudge them into moving without thinking about it. And that means, in Sardinia, the hills, in Japan, in Greece, where they're working the land every day. They're planting, they're going out in the garden, they're sitting down, on their ankles all the way down. They're really working, pulling, lifting, and they don't think about it, but they're actually doing resistance exercises. They're doing strength. And we know strength is key to longevity. So if we're not doing that, we're going to have to do something else to replace that. Okay, so we're going to have to go to the gym. We're going to have to do some exercises home, which I'll be showing you in a bit. Later, I'll be showing you this. We're going to go over specific exercises at home, which focus on strength. So we need to do the strength part. We also need to do, for our mitochondria, which produce ATP, which is, gives us the endurance, we need to do VO2 max. VO2 max is, okay, how efficiently are we using oxygen? How does it go to our muscles? How do we feed everything in our body? How do we move nutrients to our body? VO2 max is critical. So how do we do VO2 max? We're going to talk about it again. Zone 2 and Zone 5 training. And I'm going to explain that, how you can do that at home easily. And incorporate it every day into your life and bring the family with you on this journey. So we need to compensate. We need to figure out how to do this. And now we have the science, so we can incorporate it so that we still get the results of the blue zones. We're still moving towards that. The second one is purpose. And this is what we call ikigai. Plan de vida is what they call it in Costa Rica. Same thing. And it's basically finding your purpose, through volunteer work, through creating art, and listen, after you get done with your working life, you're 65, you're retiring, that's when your work should start. That's when you should start going, okay, now I'm going to freaking work harder. I'm going to have my ikigai. I'm going to do what I always wanted to do. I'm going to have I'm going to help our communities. I'm going to help the people in need. I'm going to help certain groups that are dear and near to my heart. Okay, I'm going to create my tribe, and we're going to talk about that. And this is what makes all the difference. And we see this in the blue zones come back. We see this when we created the walking paths in Aruba and everything. We saw groups coming together and walking. It's a purpose all of a sudden. So you have to do what you do with purpose. Meaning you got to think about it. You got to think why you're doing it to the deepest point. Why am I, in the kitchen, in the house? Why am I clean? Why am I, maintaining this environment for my family? What am I putting in the food? What food am I bringing into my house? How do I replace the soda cans? How do I nudge my family into a healthier behavior, healthier food choices? How do I nudge my family into movement and being active, being an active family? Okay, so this is working everything you do with purpose. And so purpose, is in everything we do. We care for the family, volunteer work, environment, the planet. This is our purpose. We need to find it. We need to search it out and then work at it. Okay. Number 3, downshift. Okay, even the people in the blue zones have some stress, whatever stress. And we talked about stress, right? We talked about acute stress, where we basically know what to do, right? Psychological sigh. 2 breaths in, long out. This reduces that stress. So this is stress where you get when you get attacked, when you have a big speech, before you go into your boss's office, whatever. It's acute stress. This is how you mitigate it. Secondly, middle term stress. Middle term stress is stress projects, home, family, whatever. Ice baths. Yep, ice baths. We did it. We talked about it. Think about doing it. So these are the things that you can do. And so one of the things that we have to incorporate is routines to shed this stress, also the long-term stress. And this means, practice meditation, practice your spirituality or your faith. This all helps with this. This really, really helps with this. So we have to do some focus. I mean, listen, the Sardinians have the happy hour. So do we in Aruba, mostly for tourists because, I think there'd be a little too much drinking if we have a happy hour every sunset, but we kind of have it, okay, in Aruba. We have to, in Greece, they take a nap. That's their thing. In Spain, they do the same thing too. Take a nap middle of the day. So these are the things that are great. They are cultural, but they actually help. And stress is a big one. So we need to really monitor that. Here's also where we have to look at sleep. Sleep is key, all right? Quality and quantity of sleep. And we have a whole episode on sleep. Sleep is key. You need the quality and you need the quantity of sleep. Otherwise, downshifting becomes impossible and, not really helpful. Okay. Number 4, 7-hour feeding window and the 80% rule. So in Okinawa, this is a 2,500-year-old tradition where it's a Confucius mantra. And that is, stop eating at 80% full. And it's wise. I mean, 2,500 years ago, they came up with this stuff, man. In research, we know right now that you gotta stop at 80% because before the stretch signals of your stomach get sent up to your brains to give your brain the information and to give your brain the kind of the trigger, like, hey, we're stretched, we're full, it takes time. And that time, right, is that 20%. So at 80%, you're already topped off, except your brain doesn't know it yet. So if you stop at 80%, 15 to 20 minutes after, you're going to be exactly completely full. If you eat to 100%, you will be, in 20 minutes, over full. The feeling where you walk around and go, oh God, I ate too much, I ate too much, I ate too much. We do it all the time. It is bad. It is not good. Over 2,000-year-old, almost 3,000-year-old mantra is as relevant then as it is today. Eat to 80%, stop when you're still a little hungry, and know that in 20 minutes, you'll be perfectly full. It's one of the things we have to do. Now, the 7-hour feeding window, this is for longevity, really. So at the center of what we do, at the center of the circle, we have, this stress mimetic, all right? Perceived adversity. We talked about this quite a bit. Everything we do has to have a perceived adversity. This is our genetic makeup. If we don't have it, our cells get lazy. Our immune system goes down. We don't regenerate new cells. We get sick. We have a horrible life. We become decrepit. We have to have adversity, which means that's why we train. That's why we push our bodies. That's why we can't be fed all day. Coming back to the 7-hour feeding window. 7-hour feeding window, you can move it wherever you want during the day, but eat in those 7 hours. In the 17 hours after, right, don't eat. Drink water, coffee without sugar, tea without sugar. You can take your vitamins, but that's it. Why? We want to give our body a rest, and we want to bring in this adversity. We need to feel hungry. We need to feel hungry. It's good for you to feel hungry. All right? And it helps your body to heal itself. Okay? Insulin, the effects on insulin, the effects on glucose in the bloodstream, the effects it has on your body, it's amazing. So the 7-hour feeding window is key here. Okay, what do we eat? Whole foods and protein. Let's cut out sugar. Let's cut out highly processed foods. You know, and we know what's bad. Start cutting it out. Have a cheat day if you want. Saturday is my cheat day. But cut it out. Cut it out for the family. All right? We need whole foods and we need to up our protein, which means beans, flava beans, black beans, soy, lentils. Amazing. Greens, vegetables, as much as you can. Lean protein. Make sure you supplement with omega-3 fatty acids. Or eat a lot of fish. Vitamin D, K2, we need that supplementation, especially when you're dark, even if you're living in the sun. You're not going to get enough vitamin D from the sun. Cold weather, for sure. So these are the things that we need to. What's the protein intake a day? Well, it's 2 grams of protein per 1 kilogram of ideal body weight. So calculate it. This is where we're set. And if you come with me, well, the RDA doesn't say that, or, you know, the food pyramid doesn't say that. Well, the food pyramid was made to what we need to survive, not to thrive. This is to thrive, okay? And when we get older, guess what? We need more protein because our body is less efficient in doing protein synthesis. What do we lose when we get older? Muscle. We lose strength, we lose muscle. So we need to keep as much as we can. We need the protein. Trust me, we need the protein, and I talk about this quite a bit. So this is what we're looking at. Fermented foods and fiber. Critical. All right? Gut biome. Episode 1, 2, and 3. So we need these things. This is the 5th, I think, key here. 6, wine at 5. Okay, this is, you know, this is very moderate. And we see, this is the blue zone, the Sardinians, the Greeks, you know, except for the Adventists, the religious group in Loma Linda. The rest, they drink moderately, small amounts every day. And it's a social thing. It's socializing, it's at dinner, it's with the family, it's with friends, it's, you know, it's part of music, dance, it's part of movement, it's part of really looking at life, enjoying life. And so it's not bad. It's not bad. Okay, but we cannot overdo it. And if you have a problem with it, don't touch it. It's okay not to touch it. You know? Number 7 is belonging. And I wanted to put 6 in because the 6 needs to be in there. I mean, it's we can hide it. We can say, no, it's not true, but it's true. It's what the blue zones do. It's what they have. When we look at 7, belonging, it's amazing. I mean, you have to belong to a community. You have to feel like you belong. If you don't feel like you belong, if you get isolated, which is what's happening to a lot of the kids now because they're electronically advanced and socially, you know, limited or socially, challenged. This is the danger. We have to have community. And you could do it with faith-based community, you could do it with sports, you could do, you know, in Aruba we saw that people start walking together in groups. People started having, you know, volunteer work groups. We see cycling have groups. This is like belonging. This is belonging. This is super important. We need this. Everyone needs this. And as we get older, we need it even more. Okay? And if we look at this, you know, even in the faith-based services, the research they've done, 4 to 14 years of life expectancy extra. Practice meditation, develop your spirituality. Really, it's key. Number 8, loved ones first. Successful centenarians in the blue zones put their families first. This means keeping aging parents and grandparents nearby or in the home. It lowers disease and mortality rates of children in the home. They commit to a life partner, which can add 3 years to life expectancy. Invest in their children with time and love, and they invest in their grandkids. So you see that the grandparents don't need to be a burden. They can actually be a huge help in the home. They can be, when they're close by or in the home, they can truly be, assisting with everything from homework to the children, to raising the children, to creating that community, to bringing their wisdom in and teaching. So many teaching moments. I mean, this is critical. This is a lot of stuff that we're losing when we're living in the big cities and away from everyone. So loved ones first is a big one. And it's a hard one. I know it's hard. I mean, we're struggling with it. But right now, I have the parents of my wife living with us in our home in Turkey, downstairs. The father is on his last stages of life with heavy Parkinson's, and the mother is in dementia and Alzheimer's. But they're living with us. We're taking care of them. It's the community. We eat together. We make sure that we have 2 moments during the day, at least minimum, where everyone eats there, in their kitchen, at the table, to really be there. And it makes a huge difference. It makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. So if you can, do it. If you can't, get it close. Try to get them close as possible. Number 9 is the right tribe. And this is huge. The world's longest lived people don't they choose, or maybe where they're born into, social circles that supported healthy behaviors. The Okinawas created moais, groups of 5 friends that committed to each other for life. So, and the research shows that this brings happiness, you need to have your tribe. If it's not your family, it's your friends, a group, a tribe, where you commit to each other, where you make each other better, right? I have a couple of tribes. I love it. I love this idea. And you make each other better. You make each other healthier, support each other. And you're there for life. You're like, dude, we're not only gonna plan vacations together, or we do sports together, or we do activities together, or we're gonna meet, but we're gonna be there for each other, no matter what, the rest of our lives. And that is huge. That is huge. It contributes to, the happiness factor. It, moves out loneliness. It's contagious. So it's a key. It's key to make this happen. The other part, I think, is very important. Neuroplasticity. We need to continuously push ourselves, and this is part of the whole perceived adversity. We gotta challenge ourselves continuously, physically, spiritually, with nutrition, mentally, but also with neuroplasticity, and which means this: we need to learn new things. Okay, we need to continuously learn something new. Whether it's a language, whether it's get involved in art, dance. The arts are amazing what they do to our brains and neuroplasticity. So art is always a place I go. Art, design, you name it. Go, dive into it. Stuff you wanted to do. Music, oh my God. If you want to do music, if you never had time, do it. Start something new. It is key for cognitive decline. It is key to prevent cognitive decline, which is you really don't have. I have, 2 parents here that have cognitive decline, and it's horrible. My own parents, my own mom also had it severely, and it's horrible. It's something you don't want to have. So make sure you keep learning new stuff. Okay? Look at this. Go over it. I want you to implement it. Start implementing parts of it. Look at it again. Reevaluate. Implement more. This is your strength. This is your longevity 9. All right? This is where you can come back and go, okay, I'm missing this, I'm missing that. I need to work more on this. I need to work. It's kind of like design. I love to dabble in design. I use feng shui. You know, I did courses in it and kind of got a little bit proficient at it. But I use Black Sect Buddhist feng shui, which is power-based, and it's phenomenal. It's fun. It's you know, I decorate my own areas. I create my own environments, and it makes a huge difference. I've done it for patients. It makes a huge difference. So dive into stuff like that, creative stuff. Really challenge your mind. So again, at the center, there's perceived adversity, and we have to implement that in every facet of living to be able to live longer and healthier. And so now I want to show you what we do in the house. So the stay-at-home mom, as I promised, stay-at-home dad, stay-at-home fill in the blank, we're going to do some work in the kitchen, in the yard, to get you healthy. And this will continue. And this is not the last time we'll go over this. We'll kind of keep going over this because it is that important. This was just a quick overview so you know what we're talking about. So you can have the big picture and you can start. And this is a start. So thank you. Subscribe, ring the bell notification. And I guarantee you, like I always do, you're going to be the healthiest you've ever been. So let's continue this journey. See you next time.